So let's talk about what a lot of people know you for, which is your time with ECW.
All right, that all started. Basically, I met Paul Heyman when I worked for Savoli. So I met him back then, and he was doing the Paulie thing with the telephone and hitting people with the telephone.
Giant phone from the 80s,
With
or the early 90s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was his deal then. So I met Paul back then. I got involved with the Eliminators, that I would still say to today is the greatest tag team in the history of wrestling. They were just amazing. Perry Saturn and John Cronus. Kowalski called me one day. He says, I have a student that just come up here from Ohio. He just got a job at a strip club as a bouncer, and he's coming to the school. He said, I'd love for you to go talk to him. I'm like, sure. So I went to the strip club, I met him, and we hit it off instantly, me and Perry. And he was like 180 pounds, long hair, tattoos. He looked like a biker, big, beard and the whole thing. And so we hit it off. I went to the next class that he was going to be at, and we talked and hung around and just became very, very close. Then Cronus came along. And people don't really know this, but Cronus was only trained for about 3 months in wrestling. He was an acrobat, he did gymnastics, so he's very, even though he's so big, he was very flippy floppy and good with that stuff. And Perry knew somebody that was down in Memphis, so he got connected with Lawler, and they needed a tag team. So basically Perry grabbed Cronus and said, we're going to Memphis, we're going to do this tag team thing. So they went down to Memphis, and they would do live TV every Saturday. He would make them make a copy of the live TV at the studio, because they filmed it at a studio. Make them make a copy of it on a VCR tape, and he would FedEx it to me. I'd have it on Monday morning. So I have every Eliminator interview match from the USWA, the whole Waller thing, that whole time. So I would edit it. I'd cut things out and I was into 10-minute demo tapes, because that's all you need. Show a little interview, show a little bit of you going over good, show a little bit of you working, and send that out. That's all they need to see. You can talk, you can get beat up and look good, and you can win and look good. So they went down to Memphis, they sent me up these tapes, and one day Perry mentioned to me about ECW. He goes, what's the deal with that? You know Paul Heyman, right? I'm like, yeah. He goes, well, can we get up there? So I got in touch with Paul, sent him a tape. I think it went to Taz. Taz loved it right away. Booked him for the next Philly TV. So they went out to Philly TV, and they got there and they met Paul, and Paul's like, where's Paul? And they're like, he didn't come with us. Well, I want him to come with us. And I want him to referee for us too, what the hell, old time's sake, blah, 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 blah. So he flew me out the next TV, and Paul said to me, he goes, we run all over the place. He goes, I'll travel you around, whatever you want to do. Every one of my shows you can referee. I'm like, all right. So I did the weekends, and I was doing advertising during the week. And I get out of work every Friday early at like noon, so I could fly to Philly or go wherever where you had TV the next day. And I went down and just reconnected with Taz, and Dreamer was in Savoli for a while too. So all these guys that I had known, and then all these other people I'd never heard of that didn't even look like wrestlers, were just amazing. And they were all normal, regular people. It was very comfortable. And I started working for Paulie on the regular. And but I started to get hurt. Concussions, because I would be the one that would get thrown around and tossed around and do the crazy spots for the opening of the TV show, because that's where you want to be. You don't want to be mixed in the crowd. You want to, So, that was middle 90s. Concussion was a concussion. If you have a headache, put an ice bag on. They make sure you're not flying that night. If they do, they took your ticket away, rebooked it for the next day. And that was it. Don't go to sleep tonight. At ECW, we didn't sleep anyway, because all the promos, all the interviews were done at the suite at the hotel. And it started at like 2 in the morning after the show. It would go on till 6 in the morning. So the hallway of the suite would be all of us sitting around. There was a 24-hour diner across the street called the Penrose Diner. They had the best diner food. So the fans would all still be around in the hotel, so they'd go across the street and get us food and bring it to us. And, this would just go on for hours and hours. They'd do the Joey Styles, all these openings, and because you think he's at the shows. They did it so good, you hear the background.
Yeah.
We're here in the Lost Battalion Hall in Queens, New York, you know, in front of the ECW.
I did think it was at the shows.
It was all done in,
Yeah.
in a suite at 2 or 3 in the morning. You know, they piped in the noise and Joey did. It was amazing. Paulie is a genius, absolute genius. I have so much respect for him, even though it didn't end well with us and him on the New England end of things. I don't hold a grudge, you know, against him because of the money situation. And out of the list, I remember looking at Meltzer's newsletter, because Meltzer was always tight with everything. And his check started to bounce and everything. They're showing how much he owes this person, that person, this person, that person. It's probably about 60 guys on the list that he owed, some of them hundreds of thousands of dollars that he didn't pay. He owed myself and Mike Banaski, I think it was $3 grand, that Mike had put on his credit card, his family credit card, to rent chairs for a show we had. I would call Paul and say, I'm buying $5,000 worth of commercials on Vince's TV. He goes, okay, you'll have the 30-second commercial in a day. I'll FedEx to you. How much is the bill? I tell him the bill. He'd send me a check. Boom. Never a problem. Never ever a problem. Until at the end, suddenly this $3,000 check bounced. Caused problems with Mike and his wife because it's his family credit card, you know, and this had never happened before. We've been doing it for a few years now and never had a money problem. So I talked to Paul. He's like, sorry, redeposit in the bank. It'll clear, blah, blah, blah. So Mike went, redeposited it, didn't clear again. So he knew the owner of the bank, that Mike knew the owner of his bank. So he's talking to the guy and he's like, this is going to be a big problem. He's starting to bounce checks, blah, 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 blah. Just so happened, the owner of Mike's bank had a connection with Paul Lee's bank in New York. On a Tuesday, the guy from Mike's bank called him and said they just made a huge deposit in the account. I just heard. He goes, you're not supposed to put a check in after twice it bounces. You got to get a new check. I put it through and it cleared. So we are probably just about the only people in the original ECW who didn't get fucked by Paulie. We got our money. And he wasn't happy about that, because then I called him and said, thank you, we got our money. What do you mean, what do you mean? I go, the check cash thing. Well, it bounced twice, how did it cash? I go, don't worry about it. I go, but also I just called the TV station and we're off TV. I canceled the commercials. I go, we're done. New England's over. And that was the end of that. Very disturbing and upsetting after all we had done, you know, to have this happen. But when you look at the grand scheme of things, all these people, Van Dam, Dreamer, hundreds of, all kinds of money he owed these people. And I don't think anybody ever got their money. You know, I think when he went to Vince, which he really was working for Vince, and there was rumors of that Paulie was connected to Vince. When they found the building in New York to do Monday Night Raw, Paul Lee drove around with Vince to find that building. So Paulie was getting a check from Vince on the regular, you know. So, and we had heard rumors about that we were really working for Vince, you know, and blah, blah, blah. But yeah, so I mean, that's how it ended. And I told Paul when we started this, you know, I started refereeing for him. One day I saw him in Philly at the airport. We had lunch, just talking about TV in general. And he's just like, the Boston market is so freaking hard. He goes, I've tried for 2 years. They won't even talk to us, you know? And I'm like, it's because you don't know the right people. You know, I know all TV people in Boston. You know, I've been on TV in Boston for years, you know? So he kind of snidely said to me, he goes, if you can get us on TV, you run the New England office. I go, really? And he goes, yep. And me and Mike Banaski, we did it in like 10 days. Had a signed contract on the Spanish. And Paul was like, why did you do the Spanish? Why'd you do this? Blah, 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 blah. I go, I don't care about the Spanish people. I don't care if they come to the shows. I go, Channel 27
Yeah,
is
Channel
on every single
Yeah.
TV station in New England, every single TV in New
I
England.
remember that.
If you have rabbit ears, if you have
Yeah.
cable, if you have satellite dish, it's on every friggin' house. So we are now totally covered in New England,
Yeah.
in all 5 states. It's a great idea.
One of
you
the
know?
top UHF channels before it was even in Spanish. I remember it well.
Their ratings went up
Yeah.
at 1 o'clock in the morning because so many people were watching our show. You know, because it was different and it was crazy, and I wanted it on at 1 in the morning because I wanted to get the drunk 25s to 35s who are coming home from going out and put the TV on and want to see blood and guts and gore and real good wrestling, you know, and it worked. You know, it absolutely just took off, and that's a credit, of course, to Paul for the genius that he is. He was so inspirational. Nowadays we have a meeting before the show in the dressing room with the talent. I instituted that because Paul did that at every show. If we were in the arena, he'd stand up on the stairs and we'd all stand below him and he'd tell us what's going on and pep us up, and everybody would be like all excited because he was that kind of guy. He could get you know, to do that.